really doing it well. But this is really a technical challenge. It seems real easy. So complicated. We've gotten it pretty good. And welcome to today's garden class. It's not so much a class. Hey, Dave, good to see you. Wow, we got everybody starting to show up. Oh, welcome. No, join us. So just kind of sit there for a minute. And then, so Dave is, so let me just finish up with interest for you folks online. We're glad that you're tuned in. Thank you here at Waters Garden Center. Today's garden class is mainly just showing off new things that just came brand new. I don't care how good a gardener you've been, how long you've been gardening, you've never seen these before. Or it's something a new size. I got giddy and went, oh, that's really neat. I want to show that off. That's the class pretty much. It's kind of a show and tell thing. And I tried to pick off a few house plants, new things you've never seen, or some trees, some shrubs. Try to get all the departments, one or two things. There's 2 acres of this, so I can only pick up a few things, and I'm just sharing a few of them. And so I'll give you, I was mentioning to the class just before the camera came on, here you go, Boys and Girls Club. So the CEO came over to the store. We have 2 clubs, one in Prescott Valley, one in Prescott. They do great stuff. Lisa and I support them heavily. I generally work through other people though. So if someone else, one of my team members going, here's $1,000, here you go, we'll support that. And so the CEO, along with the entire crew, so the whole bunch, about 15 aprons were here this morning. So he came over with his crew and they said they've got this Dancing with the Stars thing they do as that's their main fundraiser. And I've been telling them no for, well, this is year 7. I've been telling them no for 7 years. And I was at a breakfast with him just like 3 weeks ago. I said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm spread too thin. I have too many other causes I'm raising money for. I'm not doing that. So he came and got the entire Waters team to pressure me to say yes. Everyone's in on this except me. So they go, Ken, you've got an interview here inside. Could you come inside? I'm going, okay. And so the entire team is rallying around going, oh, they're going, will you dance with the stars? And so I'm going, okay, this year I'm going to go on stage and dance with the sport. I will be asking for your support. So when we get all done with this, but it's got something to do, some fun. We'll see how it goes. But I have my whole team on it too, so that'll be kind of fun. I'll be asking you all too for help, or at least to show up for tickets or whatever. But today's class, oh, Dave, come up. I'll just kind of, Dave is a friend. He's from Oregon.
See you.
He is one of our growers. He runs one of the largest farms for independent garden centers. There are bigger ones they grow boring stuff for the boxes, but Dave grows the funky fun stuff for independent garden centers. And we go up and we see, he gives us the grand tour. We came down here just to support us. I appreciate that.
It's good to be here.
I'm not going to have you speak today. Maybe I will. If you see something you want to jump in on, you can.
I've been scanning here to see what my stuff is.
I tried, if I'd known you were going to be here, I'd have all your stuff.
Here.
So, yeah, are you the twisted one? Yeah. Oh, talk about that. This is
okay. It's an apple.
Yeah, a twisted apple. I just wrote a radio ad that's going to start airing Monday on this, specifically and honey gold. So this is, let me just set the stage. Oh yeah, microphone. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, that's one of the things. So we can hear. So this one, they've actually planted two trees, and they've braided this thing. So as the tree grows, and what is this, like 4 or 5 years old or something like that?
It's probably 3 years old.
3?
Yeah.
So they
yeah.
braided it, and then it'll have Honeycrisp apples on this side, and honey gold, which is a sweeter apple, on the other side, all in the same plant, and they pollinate each other.
Yeah, so they both need a pollinator, and so they put 2 in 1 essentially, and so you'll buy just one tree and you'll get both pollinators, and so you'll get 2 different apples on the tree, and eventually these will just kind of fuse together, and it'll just keep growing. So it's kind of a nice twist on an apple.
Lucky bamboo. Only lucky apple tree.
Yeah, no,
so,
it's neat. There's not a lot of growers that do it this way. I think it's pretty unique.
No one. First time I've ever seen this.
Yeah, yeah.
There's nothing
cool.
online for this.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to write a radio ad for it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing. You're not going to find any. You're only going to find this at Waters Garden Center because we know the greatest growers ever. So it's just something fun. This is also called a cocktail tree. So multiple fruits on one tree or trunk. So you've got cocktail cherries, pears, apples, I'm sure some pitted fruits like apples and peaches and that kind of stuff. So, but this is I've never seen, I've sold cocktail trees for years. Never
twisted. Yeah, that's pretty unique.
So cool.
Yeah.
It's a twisted tree. Anyway, we're going to shoot a video on this later once it blooms. Right now, it's hard to capture on video. It's a trunk.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Anyway, who comes up with this stuff? Do you come up with this, or you get into
I'm not
that?
a grower. He gave me a little too much credit. I am just a sad sales rep that gets to work with Waters.
There we go. I know that you have heavy influence.
I do.
As far as what is grown.
Yes.
Yes, question in the back. We'll repeat it so that folks on land.
It'll produce fruit this year. Yeah.
Of this year, yeah. And that's 3 years from graft. I'm sure it's got some more years in the root growth and that kind of stuff. So all of our trees that we sell here are of fruiting age. We know the customers that shop at Waters Garden Center, they are impatient gardeners and they don't want to wait. We've heard this over and over. So the box stores, you can buy it cheaper over there, but that's a whip. And so it'll be 2 or 3 years or 4 or 5 before it's old enough to produce fruit. So they need to be a certain age, maturity, before that tree will actually have enough gumption to produce. So all the trees here are at least this old. Some of them are 10, 15 years old. I've got some plums over here that are, I can't believe you held on to them that long, but they're here, but they're instantaneous fruit trees to produce. What the book says is don't let it fruit the first year because trees are either fruiting or rooting. So you want that energy from photosynthesis and to go in the roots the first year. So they say to pick the fruits off first year and then let it produce fruit the next year. For me, I take a hybrid approach. I want to have a fruit this year. So I'll pick all of them off except 3 or 4 or 5. I'll leave a few on there just so I can have something to but the next year it'll really produce heavy. So anyway, that's too much on a fruit tree.
Oh,
anything else you want to talk about? Otherwise, I'm just going to go down the list, and you can start out. We'll have the man. You're the ultimate salesperson. I'll let you.
Well, this is
here, put it right here. Panchitos. I love it.
Yeah. So this is Panchito. This is manzanita, similar to your native manzanitas. If you drive anywhere in Arizona, you'll see lots of these guys. This is a selection that came out of Colorado. It's part of the Plant Select collection. Some of you guys may be familiar with that, but essentially, Plant Select is a group of plants that are great for the Intermountain region. They're basically, some are native, some are just good, tough plants for our arid, dry climate. The manzanitas are great plants. This is just starting to flower. Yeah, it has little tiny blooms.
Show the folks online. Classic manzanita. Oh, sorry. What do you want me to do? Can I hold it right there? Hi. That's enough. So they come in and see it and smell it.
They bloom around this time of year, a little bit later naturally here. Correct, Ken?
They're starting to bloom now.
Yeah. So this is a great. It's a zone 4. So if you're in a little bit colder spot, this is a great plant for you. It only gets about maybe 2.5 feet tall, and it can spread up to about 6 feet. If you've got a hill, it's a great thing. It'll just ramble down the hill and just kind of colonize the soil. And it's a great evergreen plant that really loves it here. And it'll take some shape. I have one at home. I live in Denver, actually, and I've got a bunch of these. One of these is kind of under an overhang at my house, and it gets very, very limited shade. It doesn't flower, but it grows great there. And I've literally, that spot killed everything I ever planted there until I put my manzanita there. So they thrive in pretty rough conditions. They don't need a lot of upkeep.
Curse at it, throw dirt at it.
Yeah, they're very, very drought
kick
tolerant. Yes. So once it's good to go, it's good to go, and you really don't need to worry about it.
I prefer this one. So we sell 3 or 4. Got Chieftain. We have the Howard McMahon, the regular big one. But so many manzanitas are so big, they're too big for a lot of spots, especially along a patio or at the front edge of a front of your house. This one, it's just a cute little thing. Goes like this. Classic evergreen. This is its winter color. Spring bloom. Has the red bark. So it's got all the stuff we want, and I think it's not going to die out in the middle like some of the native ones.
No, it thickens up real nice and really fills in, and you really don't need to prune this or anything. It really kind of just takes care of itself.
I would say don't put this on a drip system. Water it by hand, because I've killed off like 5 of them because I put on the drip system in heavy clay soil. They just root rot.
Yeah.
You water it by hand when you finally remember to water it. That's how often it needs to be watered.
Yeah.
Just treat it without care.
Yeah.
With neglect. Treat it with neglect.
Well, yeah, certainly after that first year, just let her go.
Yep.
I would think.
Why don't you get the Kinnick or the Manzanita, that one? Just so I can talk about this one too. These are cousins. So we have Howard McMahon, the big boy. Chieftain that gets this big. Panchito, this one gets this big. This is a ground cover. This is as tall as it gets. And then it spreads. You can see it's putting runners. It spreads like this. It's a true ground cover.
Yep.
Great for rock gardens in between the boulders. So, but same red. You've seen the same red, evergreen, red bark, evergreen. It's a bell-shaped flower to it. Same. It's just there's more manzanitas that we can grow here. We're trying to introduce more of them because they're so perfect for Arizona. So anyway, that's native.
Have you ever seen the berries on? Do you get berries on Kinnick at all? Not really.
Yeah, I don't really see berries.
Yeah, okay.
If I do, the birds got it before I ever saw them. So birds love them.
Yeah.
This is a pollinator. So the bees are out foraging right now. So they're after your rosemaries, the manzanitas, those early spring bloomers. They really need those because they're hungry. They've been hibernating.
Yeah, there's not a lot going on right now.
So
question in the back.
No, this one gets way more flowers. Of course, it's a way bigger plant too.
Yeah.
So this is really what you get with this one, ground cover.
Yeah, more just an evergreen ground cover shrub.
Yeah. They call it bearberry sometimes because it can get a little berry. It goes by Massachusetts berry. There's several. Really in Arizona, we call it Kinnick. I don't know why it has so many names, but it does.
I'm picking the next one. Can I lead? Is that all right?
No, go for it. Love it. You can take the whole class if you want.
Question over to the left.
Yeah, they're like a matchstick. So his question was, manzanita, are they firewise? Absolutely not. Keep them out. So a manzanita is the flame is going to be at least 3 times the width, the height but this is not a firewise class. So you keep it, you're going to plant it in that island out away from the house, not underneath the eaves. So there's places for them. But we have a lot of places that aren't in that fault wildland interface zone. So Prescott Valley, lots of Chino, Paulden. Go at it. So it's fine. So watch where you put it. Yep. That's right. That's correct. Yeah. Great choice. So we've got another teacher in the audience. She's telling us how to firewise our landscape. Love it. We teach a whole nother class. If I can be out teaching firewise stuff in the community. So certified. In fact, I helped write the code. So anyway, super firewise. But this is firewise. This is a great plant. So tell us about.
So this is a eternal fragrance Daphne. Once it's established, it's very drought tolerant. That first year, you're going to want to water it good. And I wouldn't say, I mean, you're going to be more of the watering expert here for Arizona, but most places, I would say the Daphnes are very drought tolerant once they get established.
Especially in the shaded areas,
Yeah.
which is more of a shade loving plant. So Daphne has the sweetest flower you will ever smell. It puts a lilac to absolute shame. Roses cannot compete. It is so fragrant, bright white, it's evergreen, gets up about knee high or so. Great little shade plant. If you want a really fragrant, pretty plant in a container off your back patio on a deck, covered deck, this is a great plant for that. So super, we could not get these last year. So I'm so happy.
Yeah, it's a
got
tough
more
one.
that came online.
I was actually pleasantly surprised you had them here.
They're nice and full too.
Yeah,
they look good.
Yeah, so and the one of the nice things about Eternal Fragrance is as long as it's actively growing, it will be flowering. So if you got it in a really happy spot and it continues to grow, it will continue to set flower buds. So it can, in the right situation, kind of bloom sporadically all year long.
Yep. Repeat bloomer.
And it is a nice, evergreen plant as well. If you get a harsh winter, you can lose a little bit of leaves, but you guys will probably hold your leaves most of the time on it. But yeah, and the fragrance is absolutely fabulous. And it's a relatively early bloomer. So it's kind of one of the ones, this would be a great one. I don't know about Firewise, but it's a great one to put right next to your front door because in the spring, you're going to get that fragrance when you're walking out your front door.
I believe this is Firewise. So Firewise, stay away from things underneath your eaves, things next to your cedar fences, things that burn. Stay away from things with resin. So junipers, pine, spruce, those things with lots of pitch and oils in them, those burn. And then a few other sporadic things like manzanita. You wouldn't think they have a high pitch, but they do, which is why they're so Firewise. This does not. This has sap in it. So it's got a lot of water to it. So if you keep it moist, don't let it go brown and die, or everything that's brown and dead can burn. But this, as long as it's healthy, it's fine. And this one, if you were to fertilize this with, in the right spot, some more shaded area, a couple times a month with the flower power fertilizer, you would get multiple blooms off of this. It's an amazing little plant. And very rarely do we get it. We only get it early spring. And once these are gone, there'll be no more. That's it. So early spring. What else are you gonna talk about? So knee high. I like this.
24-30.
Lots of shade, full shade. Yes, more shade than that. And then put an umbrella over it. Yep. And it'll take some sun too. It'll take morning sun. But that midday June, it's not going to like that midday. And if you read the tag, it probably says full sun. It goes great. Not here. This elevation tends to get to it some. Okay. What else you got? Talk about anything. Anything you're comfortable with.
I can't wait till you talk about this because I just saw that over on this table
cool?
and I thought that's super cool. This is a nice dwarf Mugo pine. It's an upright.
There you go.
There you go. So this is Tannenbaum Mugo pine. It's a very compact, small grower, max feet, probably 15 feet high, maybe 8 feet wide. A little bit slower of a grower, but it'll hold the screen all year long. And just it's a really nice, tough plant. You don't have a ton of shade here, but it will. The Mugos will take, as far as evergreens, Mugos will take a little bit more shade than some of the other conifers will. So it's just a really nice pine for like tighter spaces. I was just driving around some of the neighborhoods here to kind of see what's getting planted, and I'm seeing Austrian pines and Colorado spruce in people's front yards. And maybe somebody's not going to live there that long and they're going to move on, but those plants are going to get huge. This is a great option for something to plant in your front yard or closer to the house that isn't going to get so big that eventually it's going to take over.
Most Mugo pines we sell are the shrub type. They kind of mound like this. They'll kind of sprout out. This one actually has a trunk to it. It's very much like a miniature. It's probably the smallest of the pine trees. Stay short. So a companion to this would be Alberta spruce. That cute little Christmas tree looking spruce gets similar in size. It gets a little bit bigger, but slow growing. This is last year's growth right there.
Yeah, you're getting
about that long.
And that's in Oregon.
That's
you're
right.
getting 3 inches in Oregon. So it is going to be a slower grower, which is the advantage of it.
Small plants, and we don't get this every year. You can't find it all the time. So when we do see it, we go, we'll take 10 of those. Just bring them. We'll take them. I don't know who will buy them, but we'll take them because they're so unusual. So Tannenbaum, Mugo pines. Mugo pines are usually a shrub that grows wide. This one grows upright, miniature. About just figure 12, 15 feet tall. Probably realistic for this. Yeah, you did good on that, Dave. You know what you should do for a living? Sell plants.
Well, you know what? While you're doing this, I'll go get some more plants. I'll be up here in a minute.
So what else is yours? Anything else?
I
I
don't.
wasn't picking by variety. I was just picking by
Yeah, I
what's in
mean,
bloom and inspiring.
I think I'm going to let you take over. I don't think any of the rest is mine.
Let's go with some perennial stuff.
you know.
So you can jump in if you want. Or
Well, I mean,
I know you like a microphone.
yeah. I mean, I like talking. You know me.
So dianthus, anytime you hear the word pinks, dianthus, or carnations, they're good plants for here. Animals aren't going to eat it, so rabbits, deer, javelina aren't going to bother them. Generally, they're evergreen, so they'll have some foliage. They'll look like that, kind of ever blue color. But this is a super unusual color combo. Usually they come in pinks, just a solid pink, solid white, solid red. To have this multicolor is super unusual, and this is only available at Waters Garden Center. So there you go. That's just
Come and get it, folks. Come and get it.
I've never seen that before. So I like these in containers. I'll grow them in containers because they're sometimes container plants, they die out and you get an empty container. This does not do that. So if you deadhead this, so you get if you pinch off the spent flowers and fertilize it with flower power every couple times a month, this will be in continual bloom through the entire season. It's amazing. So anyway, good old sun plant, at least 4 to 6 hours of sun to keep it blooming. Yeah. So how much cold will this take? I've had this go down to 0 degrees and it wasn't in bloom. Looked pretty beat up, but we don't see zeros very often here, about every 10 or 12 years, but it came right back into bloom again. So this is a zone, I think 5 plant. So we're zone 7, so it goes way cold. So this is a dianthus and Candice popcorn or potpourri dianthus.
Ken, is there any fragrance to that?
Not much.
Okay.
I don't know why it doesn't smell. Yep.
Will it take late afternoon sun?
Yes.
Afternoon.
And a blow dryer. It'll take afternoon sun with a blow dryer. It loves the sun. It's got a real thick, when you touch the foliage, it has a real thick leaf to it. So it's not a succulent, but it kind of feels like that. It's holding moisture in its structure and the flowers. So it's not just root bound. So yep. Good. West side's good for that. This is another dianthus or carnation. Anytime you see pinks, carnation, or dianthus, you know you got a good plant. Javelina proof, sun, it just does well. But that color combo, the 2 colors of pink and red, just kind of different, unusual. You don't see it every day. We're trying to get more and more of these just because they're so bulletproof up here.
And that had some fragrance to it. I
It
was
does.
smelling that, and that had a
Yeah.
nice, sweet smell.
So this columbine, so there's a native columbine that grows up here in the mountains. Out in the forest, you'll see a yellow flower. This is it right here. So I brought it just because it's the native one. We'll have a whole series of blue, red, pinks, a lot of different columbines, but just kind of, it's also in bloom right now. So I'm trying to inspire gardeners. So there you go. Yeah. Oh, can do. Hummingbirds will take this sometimes. Yeah, they'll go after this. So kind of not, the dianthus only get a foot, 18 inches at most. Then they kind of spread. So they'll kind of get this high and kind of do this. And then every 3 or 4 years, I'll whack them back. Just going, okay, you're getting too big. I want you to be here. And I'll fertilize them and they'll come right back just like that. So a true perennial. Perennial and permanent both start with P. So they come back year after year, once and done. Annuals bloom 1 year and then they're dead. So that's the difference. Columbine's more of a shade plant, yeah. It says it'll take sun. What I find is it doesn't bloom very long. It blooms a long time in more shaded areas. Put it in that morning sun's fine, late afternoon I think would be fine. At midday in June, with a prevailing southwest wind and it's 10% humidity, that's hard on plants. That's when that'll take it in the chin. This plant won't. This plant will keep blooming over and over and over. This is gaillardia or blanket flower. So it's an early spring bloomer. So you can see there's probably, I don't know, 2-3 dozen blooms coming up on this, but it starts blooming early and it blooms a long time. And the more you deadhead, if you pinch this off when it's done blooming, it just sets another bloom just like that. So this is one that also we put in a lot of wildflower mixes because the animals, rabbits, javelina, don't eat this. So it's not really a new plant. This is an Arizona sunset blanket flower. It's been around for a long time. That's the classic one. But it's just so bulletproof. You can't go wrong with this. Every yard should have at least one.
It does like a well-drained soil.
Oh yeah.
This will actually grow on the dunes back east in the sand.
Yep.
So it really does not want to have wet feet. That is the one thing that, if you do have a heavy clay soil, you want to make sure you're not letting that sit in water.
But if you happen to kill one, I know where you can buy another one. I referred to them. These are short, so not even knee high, maybe 18 inches. They kind of mound like this. They do really well. Yep. How often should you water this? So flowers, you're probably going to water these right now once a week. I've got some of these in containers. They're quite blooming yet, but they're starting to bud up. And I'm watering about every 10 days. But it's been moist, it's been wet and cold. I'll change that as we start to get closer to the 70s. I'll change about once a week. In the summer, might be every day if it's in full bloom, in a raised bed or pot, exposed to full sun. Your backyard, hot sun, might be every other day or so. I don't know. They're deep rooted and they're drought hardy. So
they'll flag a little bit. It doesn't necessarily mean they need more water.
Right.
They'll just kind of droop a little bit in the heat of the sun. So if you see that, it doesn't necessarily mean soak me. I would just check it before you watered it, but they will do that a little bit. Yeah, they will.
Yeah, absolutely. This one I'm excited about. We've got two here. So these two,
Those are
we
interesting.
only get in spring. Right now, I've gotten a couple hundred of them, and when they're gone, they're just gone. Heath or heather sort of it's an alpine plant. This is actually a heath. They look really similar. Heathers comes in white and in pink. The reason I love this is it's got that bell-shaped flowers. Again, it's a pollinator early spring. The honeybees and stuff will be on this, using it as a food source. And when it's done blooming, it's got this beautiful evergreen fern look. It looks good in bloom or not. A lot of folks think this only blooms in the shade. Not so. I've had this in full bloom in my perennial beds, Skull Valley. That's hot. That's 4,200 feet. I've had it in a container in my house in Prescott Valley, on a patio, radiant heat, bloomed great. So this will take a lot more sun than we think it will. It blooms now through spring, basically. It's one of the first things to bloom in spring. I like it in that it buds like an azalea or rhododendron. It starts to bud up in fall and winter. So you think it's like for gardeners, it's like a tease. Oh, it's going to bloom. It's going to bloom. It looks like it's in bloom, but it's not. And then it opens like this. You're going, there it is. It's kind of exciting. It just announces spring. So usually late winter is when it starts to bloom and right through spring. So I also notice elk, javelina, deer, rabbit don't eat this. I don't know why. It looks delicious, but they don't bother it. So that's personal experience. So comes in that or this. Isn't that spectacular? Gets up, like knee high, but kind of mounds like this, kind of 18 inches by 2 or 3 feet.
And you don't need to prune that, right?
You don't have to prune it.
Just let it go.
No, just let it go, and that's all you do. Plant it and enjoy it. That's all you got to do. Good in containers. You have to have personally grown in containers, out in a flower bed, raised beds. It's pretty versatile. It'll take our wind and our sun, our alkalinity, our water really, really well. What else do we go? Let's go down this gardenia and this rose. Wish the Bailey guy was here. He'll be here tomorrow. So I've invited all of our reps, growers, manufacturers, all the people that are behind the scenes to the garden center, and they show up. I'm always surprised.
We're happy to be here.
It's just exciting to see the folks that actually do this for a living talking about this stuff. I have this one that looks just like this. I've got two of them. This is a hardy gardenia. Most folks don't think you can grow gardenia here, but this is, and you can't. Most of them. They're not hardy enough. This one actually goes down to, I think, minus 20 degrees. It's a zone 5. So this is called sweet tea, sweet something or other. Sweet, hold on, I got this. Sweet star gardenia. Puts on a flower about like this, and the fragrance is gardenia. I mean, it's like, wow, beautiful. I put these in containers in my yard. I've got one in the front patio where we spend a lot of time. It gets west sun. That's all the sun it gets. So late in the day, 3 o'clock on, loves it there. I've got one in the back patio that's complete shade. So it's 2-story house, 2.5-story house, north side, in a container. That's where we tend to entertain and be. That's where the grill is, the hot tub's out there. I've got one out there. I just love the fragrance as it fills up the patio. I love that smell. And then it's evergreen. It looks good year round. So these are all the buds. You're seeing the flower buds right here. So probably in another 2-3 weeks, this will be in bloom. And mine at my house look exactly like this. It's waiting to bloom. Yep.
Does it just have one bloom period? Or
No, it blooms. It blooms multiple times over. It's a repeat bloomer. Yeah. Yeah. It's a good plant for here. People just don't realize they can grow azaleas, gardenias, rhododendrons, but you can in the right spot. That's more shaded. So this, so roses, I brought it for 2 reasons. One, we have a lot of roses right now. So the roses you see right now, you want to grab those now because they're all the newer varieties. So the latest introductions. If you're a rosarian, you're always searching on what's this year's rose of the year. Well, those are down there now. That's what we'll have through the middle of April. We'll read the weather, and then I have another 1,000 roses in bud and bloom right now. We'll have those typically show up the last week in April, and they will all be in bloom. But it's not all the new ones. It's the classics. It's Chrysler Imperial, Mr. Lincoln's, Fragrant Cloud. It's all your hybrid teas, Floribundas, Grandifloras, lots of climbers, and we program them because we know Mother's Day is coming. We love to see all the men coming in with their kids going, what should I get, Mom? I don't know. Roses. So it's an easy one. So, and then it makes the place smell good. It's magical. So the entire front parking lot will be nothing but roses. That's a sequence. We'll wait to bring them in then because by then they're out of the risk of frost. So roses, this kind of rose here, it's leafing out. We're going to get more frost. We could even get another snow. It's going to happen. Roses don't care. They'll take that, no problem. So if your roses at home are starting to leaf out, don't cover them. They're fine. Don't worry about them. They're fine. They might need that to slow them down. We'll bring them in after the risk of frost because it can take the flower. So we want to bring 1,000 roses in, and then in one night event, all the flowers are gone. You're going, now what? You're buying it by the picture. That's not the same as I could touch and smell the rose. And so that's kind of that's the sequence of what we bring in. This one is called First Edition. This is, Mystic Fairy. It's a bright, bright red. It's a repeat blooming shrub rose. Shrub rose means it's on its own rootstock, so there's no fancy graft, so it's much hardier, much more consistent at blooming. And it's nonstop bloom, keeps going. The problem with shrub roses, typically the flowers have been smaller, so we're introducing more and more shrub roses. The flowers are more like your traditional hybrid teas, Floribundas, and they have a fragrance. Most shrub roses don't have a fragrance. This one does. So that's that First Edition, it's red bucket. They're larger shrub roses with a fragrance. They're not quite the same as a hybrid tea. Hybrid tea is that long stem rose. That's a hybrid tea. That's the one you entered the fair and win blue ribbons. But they're darn close to it. So anyway, that's the reason I brought that one. Not that inspiring because it's not quite. Let's do this. This is kind of interesting. Then we'll do your yucca.
Yep.
So you're into lilac season right now. Lots and lots of lilacs. This is your best chance. We have the largest selection, most colors, most sizes right now. Because they're about to go into bloom. As soon as they start blooming, the entire neighborhood. I mean, everyone in the city starts going, we're going to Waters by lilac. I want one of those. What is it? And so we're prepping up for that. We have the common lilac that your grandmother grew. It's boring. I got it. Big, tall thing. It's big blooms, but you can have the same thing in white and pink and yellow and red with white variations. There's all kinds of color and they all have fragrance. So it's kind of like roses. They're all the same size, but with different colors coming on them. Same fragrance. We're also introducing a smaller series because so many lilacs are way too big. I mean, no one needs a 9-foot thing sitting at their front door, but they could use a hip-high thing. This one is a miniature lilac, literally gets this tall, about this wide, this kind of round, and mine bloomed 3 times last year. Bloomed in the spring, bloomed again at monsoon, and it was in bloom as it started to go into color in the fall. Amazing. The flower's a little bit, so it doesn't have the same panicle, same flower. It's about this big, but it makes up for it by sheer number. It has way more of them. So it's a great little plant. And now you never prune this. It only gets this big. It's easier maintenance, takes full sun. Bloomerang lilac or miniature lilacs. I got this in purple, in blue, and in pink, I think. So different colors. But that's what I really want to show. There's different sizes we're trying to introduce. So for these smaller lots, we can now have a lilac for you too. So yeah, let's go. Let's do that. Don't poke yourself. Careful. Usually I ding myself with these. This is Santa Rita. Got to go the native piece. So I'm trying to get, we're kind of walking the nursery right now with a few different things. That and this yucca. Yeah. So these are both of my native series. This is called Bright Star Yucca. This is related to our native banana yuccas. We grow a lot of yuccas, a lot of agaves. Agaves and yuccas are similar. Agave is our century plant, the one that has that huge flower that grows up. The rumor is it blooms once every 100 years. That's not true. I mean, in nature, maybe in your backyard once every 15 or 20 years, but it has a long bloom cycle. Yuccas are related. It's got a big chunky root structure to it, so it makes it very drought hardy. Gets a white flower about this tall, but mainly you're planting it for this. This is what you're seeing in front of magazines right now, this plant. In front of magazines and like a dish bowl up on this is the one.
And Ken, will it keep that color all season long, or is that just the spring winter color?
This is its color. This is its color.
Wow.
Yep, and that's spectacular. We also have the other ones. Again, I get bored with plants. I've been doing this for 31 years. But when I see something new, I'm going, that's cool. I love that. Full sun, I would say at least, actually, I don't know. Where this will lose its color is in the shade. So if it gets more shaded, it'll turn more to its blue or this green-blue color. Out in the sun, it gets this brighter color to it. When the flower is all done, so right now I'm pruning back my yucca flowers. I'm pruning back just the flower as far down as I can without poking myself, but I keep all this foliage up, exposed. So, yeah.
So, you said it grows like flowers.
Oh, good question. So she's asking, is it like an agave flower grows straight up real tall? No, these actually put on clusters of flowers. So it'll be a pod of them. And so, and agave, once they get done blooming, the plant dies. This one, when it gets up blooming, it just grows bigger. So it keeps going. So many, many years. You can get dozens and dozens of years out of this. Low water user. A little bit more than this. Probably I'd water that once a week. I got it established, and once I got it established, like next year, I would only water it when I remembered to water it. When I got back from vacation for my month-long cruise. That's how often I'd water it. This one I would never water. This is Santa Rita prickly pear. There's a lot of prickly pears, and there's too many of them sometimes, but isn't that funky? It's chubbier, bigger, fuller. The new growth has got this new color. I just want to touch it. Go ahead, touch it, Dave. No.
It bites. It bites. You gotta watch it, but it bites.
It's got a big chubby pad to it. Takes whatever cold we have, it's going to be fine. There's one of that whole, there's a whole series of native plants over there, manzanitas, that kind of stuff. This is just part of it. There's some clear cup or what are they called? The little tiny one that comes up to the rocks. There's all.
Does it get a flower?
It does get a flower. You're gonna ask me what color. So I think that's about right. Strawberry. Maybe it is yellow. I don't know what color it is.
Is this the flower bud, or
It's
is
not the
that
flower.
just new
That's
growth?
a new pad.
Okay.
I don't know. I just grabbed it going, this is neat. Oh, yeah. Yeah, white flower. Those are flowers, and they're going to turn white. There's a picture right here. You can look at it later. Yeah? Yeah? Yeah, so she's got a question. So we're 3 months ahead. So that's like into May, June, July. That's when mosquitoes come. Her question was, are there plants to keep mosquitoes away? Herbs. Look at herbs. Herbs are classic. In fact, they're putting herbs in many of the repellents. So rosemary, lavender, oregano, thyme, those are all plants that, another one that I use frequently on my back patio is we live outside. In the summer, we live outside. So I'll plant scented geraniums in containers closer to where we sit, entertain at. And that's really good. And if I have a party or something, I'll mist my herbs, my mosquito repelling plants just before we get there. And you can smell the plants kind of whiff up. That kind of pushes the mosquitoes out. So you can do that. We'll talk sidebar. We can talk further. And I don't have any of those plants right now because it's too early for some of those summer. This is just the winter, spring plants that we have now, not the summer plants. It's a whole nother set of crops. Let's go this way. How are we doing on time? We can go on and on. I wanted to touch vegetables. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. But I'm not sure. You know what I can give you folks? So I've got, if you shoot me your email, I will send you a copy of how to water. That's come up. How to fertilize to get the most color out of all these. It is time to fertilize. You really need to do that. It's important. And then the top 10 plants. I'll give you 3 things. Top 10. It doesn't tell you anything about them. It just, here's the top 10 fruit trees. Here's the top 10 evergreen screening shrubs. Here's the top 10 blooming spring growers. Here's the top 10. It's 2 pages of nothing but top 10 in small print. It can really help you hone in. Probably none of these are named by variety because we'll just go apples. We're kind of trying to get you honed in on a certain variety, and then you can pick which type you want, that kind of thing. So I'll send those 3 things. It's just for you all online. What am I going to do for folks online? I forgot to send it to you ahead of time. You got it? I love it. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, javelina. Yeah, I've got a herd over my office of like 8 sitting there digging up everything.
Ken, what's a javelina?
Javelina is a wild pig. You don't know what those are. You don't have those in Denver, really.
No, we do not.
It's a pig about this big, stinks to high heaven. And if you come across them in an orchard, they'll chase you. So they can be dangerous to small dogs. That got big boar teeth. Anyway, something to watch. Yeah. I can tell you what they love to eat. Here's some things. So I brought a couple things. Tomatoes. We've got our first crop of tomatoes. There you go, folks. So I brought this for you so that you won't plant them outdoors yet. It's too early. We have them because gardeners are freakish. They're going to go and put this in their greenhouse. They've got a whole separate structure built just for gardening called a greenhouse. That's a hardcore. They want those. I've got folks that put them in a pot and they roll them out every day from the garage out in the sun. And every night they bring them back in. Those are gardeners. There's medication for that. Or I just sell
More plants.
Some people really want tomatoes early. Or we do cater to a lot of the lower elevation, Baghdad, hillside. They're all coming in. They're ready to go now. So I've got those because we're a regional garden center. So I just brought it going. This is a champion tomato. It's classic. If you want one, I've got them. But right here, I probably wouldn't put them in the ground. Oh, javelina, I love it. Javelina would love to eat this. Javelina would really love to eat this. This you can plant right now. This is romaine, a speckled romaine lettuce. Super unusual. You're only going to find it here. Way healthier for you than, let's say, an iceberg or some of these other lettuces. This actually has antioxidants in it. It's good for you. This can be planted right now outside in the snow and sunshade, in the cold, and it's going to thrive. Most folks plant the leafy things. You're harvesting the flower, like cauliflower or broccoli, Brussels sprouts. You're harvesting the flower or the foliage, like lettuce, spinach, beets. Those things, they plant them too late. And then it gets warm and they bolt and they get all flavored. They like the cold nights and the flavor will come out when it's cool. So, but isn't that neat? I actually will plant this. This is so pretty that I'll plant this with my flowers in containers. Or what I did with my kids, the reason I brought this, the grandkids came to visit for the holidays. And whenever they come, okay, it's December, it's cold. Going, pop. Let's go pick stuff. I'm going, what are you talking about? There's nothing to pick. It's winter outside. What? Went out to I said, let's go look. And I dug around where the potatoes were, found one potato. They thought that was magical. And then I dug around, I plant these around with my flowers because this with, let's say, this and these just look good together. So I put them together often. I know it's an edible, but I put them together because it's just so pretty. And then I can eat some beets or I can juice the foliage basically. But I dug around the beets, found a beet underneath, and I didn't know it was there. I just kind of magically looked around and they thought I was like a gardening god. It was like pretty. The eyes went, oh my gosh, he can pull vegetables out of thin air. So in winter, but these are cool season things. And javelina are going to love them. So don't plant these where they can get to them. They're going to eat them. It can take shade, especially as you get warmer. Absolutely. So this one I brought, this is alyssum. This one's a little bit bigger flowered alyssum, but just take that, smell it, pass it to a friend. The fragrance you're smelling, I wish you could smell this. You should be in here. Come visit us. We like to see gardeners in here. This is just beautiful. You can see it's putting on tendrils like this. I plant this to the front edge of my containers, and literally it'll turn this huge snowball. It's beautiful. But smell it, basically. That's what you're smelling. There's two things in here, really. You're smelling, that's the alyssum and this. Did I bring one? Yeah. You're smelling this. This is, or Johnny Jump Ups is what your grandparents called this. But violas are what they're kind of written up as. It's got a sweeter smell, kind of a lighter. That one's got a sharp, kind of like syrupy smell. This has a lighter fragrance to it. So, but this will take the cold. We'll love the cold. The cousin to this, these are very much related. These are giant or mammoth pansies. This is they're the same plant, just big or small. This one tends to be more impressive. This is one you see magazines. They write about this one. This one I like because it reseeds, comes up again. It's not perennial, it's annual, but it thinks it's perennial because it keeps receding. And it makes up for the big flowers with just sheer quantity. They're both are good plants.
Ken, if you plant those in the fall, will they make it through the winter here?
If you plant them in the fall, they will go right through winter. Yep. In fact, I find that with these guys, all three of these, this is kale. I find folks plant these too late. So they've been in bloom all spring. Now they got the garden bug in May. They come in to get the last crop of these. And these plants don't like summer. They don't like to be above 80, 90 degrees. If it gets close to 100, they're going to vaporize. I don't care how much water you put on them. They die. So they plant them too late and they're thinking, oh, I'm not a gardener. Oh, I did so bad. It's all about timing. You put this in when it's cold. So I plant these in the fall so I get the color right through winter. Same with this. That's one we put in the front of hotels quite often. This is ornamental kale. The reason we do that, it gets this big around. It's impressive, but as the flower bolts, as it warms up, it puts on in a container, it'll get a flower like this tall. So as you walk into the front of a commercial business or your home or whatever, it's got a real fragrant flower. And so you're going, oh, what's that fragrance? That smells so good. What is that? You don't even realize you're going into the Hilton, going, I just love this place. It's so good. So it's a lot of it's landscape design, and that's how we design with kale many times. It's not a trick. It's a delight when you get to go in some place and it just smells good. So I'll give a couple house plants just because we're trying to stock up all things. Yeah, you can go for Alyssum. So Alyssum will take almost anything you give it. I find it blooms best, gets the longest tendrils when it has at least 4 or 5 hours of sun or more. So at least 4 hours, and it'll take full sun right out there. In fact, in full sun, it'll almost come back. If it's a mild winter, it's not unusual to have them come back for you. What's that? I don't think anything eats that. I think it's fine. No, I think it's good. No, nothing eats that. Yeah, it does seed by itself sometimes. Yeah, it's a good plant. So bees love it. It's a pollinator. It's a good thing. This is cut leaf philodendron. You've seen this written up in all the houseplant parent stuff. It looks, but it's just funky. Now we have the regular, this bothers you to see that pattern to it, which is natural. We also have the solid leaf one. So for you, solid or greener ones, but just unusual, it's exotic basically, because it's just so unusual. Same with this. This is a Chinese evergreen. Normally these are bulletproof. You can't kill them. Normally they're just green, but to see that red, pink color to it, super unusual. So again, we're trying to bring more. You can just put that on the ground if you want, or just pass it and have him hold it for you. You can take it home and plant it later. Got someone in the back, student in the back, still holding that Alyssum. Anyway, just something super. So every department, we're trying to bring something different, unusual that you can't find at just Home Depot. We call it Home. I won't say what I call it here, but we don't like orange and blue here, except in apron form. This is shamrocks. It's shamrock season. So just a shamrock. Usually they're green. We brought in purple. Just go, that's super unusual. This will actually grow outdoors in the shade. So with enough water. So, but basically it's a house plant. When you get done with it, I throw it away and go, I'm taking a African violet or something else, but it looks lucky, doesn't it? I actually took this home, but I was taking it off to show it off at a garden club. I had it in my trunk and it was dark. I take it to the event, going, let me show you and they thought they were going to bed. They all closed up and it didn't look very good. So they're real expressive. When they're in the sun, they open. When they're in the shade, they put themselves to bed. What else we got? I brought
About the quince.
quince. Yeah, let's do both of these guys. Quince and this. It's heavy. Flowering quince. We're doing good. So flowering quince. Now your grandparents grew quince and had quince jellies, quince jams. They harvested the quince. It's kind of a nuisance to have that fruit on there. So we bred one that doesn't have fruit, but it has brighter flowers. You get the same hardiness of quince. You cannot kill this.
Super tough.
You could overwater it and kill it.
Super tough.
Maybe run it over with a tank. It'd still come back though, probably. If there's a nuclear attack, I'm pretty sure ants and flowering quince will be left. That's what will be left afterwards.
And it blooms early, and you don't have a lot of blooms on this plant, but once it gets to a certain age, the whole thing is just covered in flowers. There is nothing that flowers like this that early.
Yep.
And it is beautiful.
Yep. Great plant for here. I noticed that I raised my family in Skull Valley there with elk and deer and all kinds of stuff, bears, they're everything down there. They didn't bother this, didn't eat it. It's right there in the driveway where everyone could get to it. Nothing ate this plant.
Well, and those varieties only get like 3 by 3, right? I mean, they're relatively short.
Yeah, they're much smaller than the huge quince that maybe you've seen other parts of the country. So easier to maintain. I know it looks a little wild here. This is the only, I'm lucky to get these. So I'm trying to grab as many as I can because they're just so rare. They don't grow very many of these. So these we want to grab early because there won't be more. This, I have introduced a lot more red buds. The red buds are the classic, it's a native, grows wild here, gets a heart-shaped leaf about this big, and the flowers look like this. early spring. It's one of the first things to bloom. So you're seeing I've got probably 10 different varieties over there right now, all heavily budded. And within 2 weeks, they're all going to be in bloom. They always bloom first, then they put the leaf on. So the interesting thing is they do so well as a native here. We're trying to introduce more and more and more of them. So I've got this in with a green leaf. I've got this with a red leaf. I've got this where the old growth is green, the new growth is red. I've got this where the new growth is the old growth is yellow, the new growth is red. So we call it flame thrower. I've got one that's called vanilla bean. It's a twisted variety. This grows more umbrella shaped like this. We've got one that's got more character to it. It's really interesting. It's got a white flower that's very fragrant. We've got one that's called Ruby Falls. It's a weeping.
That one's my favorite. It's purple leafed.
It's beautiful, just beautiful. So they're so tough. They don't get too big. So you can put them in these smaller yards or a side yard or in a container off the patio. You can put them in places you can't put traditional trees. That front entrance, that little tiny pocket of dirt right there, this would fit there and not take over. It's called red bud. R-E-D, just red and then bud. Yep. There's a bunch. You can do more research on it. We've got a lot of varieties. And here's the secret. I have a lot of varieties right now. Gardeners are feeling like I got to get outdoors. I must get my hands in the dirt. I'm tired of being indoors, baking cookies and sipping tea. I want to be outdoors. These are going to bloom. And there's going to be this wave of gardeners coming in, and we will sell through literally 50 of these in a couple of weekends. If you can, grab them early, put them in the ground before they leaf out at least. Before you can bloom, it's even better. So you can enjoy that flower. It's going to have less transplant shock. Now is the time to plant your trees, especially. Early spring shrubs. Now's the time to put lilacs, forsythias, quince. Now's the time to put those in.
And I don't know if Ken mentioned, but red buds will also, they're a nice small ornamental that will take some shade. So if you have a shadier spot, red buds do great in the shade.
And it's from the pea family. So
That one's poisonous. They didn't tell you?
Incredible. They're kind of delicious. They taste good. It's from the pea family, truly an edible. You can make salads from them, that kind of stuff.
You've got to buy the red bud to taste it, though.
So she's got one for you folks online over here. A red bud that gets crazy hot sun in the afternoon, shade in the morning, and it's glorious. Did I summarize that pretty well? Yes, it's small. Let me go with this one because this one is starting to bloom at the lower elevations right now. Just so you know what it is. This is forsythia. If you're from California, some of them are tropical, like Palm Springs. You've never seen this. Up here, it's a very common plant. It announces spring. Forsythia gets about head high, about like this big around. Nice green bush after it's done blooming. Beautiful fall color, kind of an aspen gold to it. It's very, very pretty. Animals do not eat this, javelina. Deer, rabbits do not bother it. Personal experience. We brought in this variety. This is called show-off forsythia. Again, forsythia is kind of common, but show-off is only available at Waters Garden Center, and we bred it to have a little bit bigger flower. It's got usually forsythia is like this. It's going to be showier with that flower when it gets mature. So that's the difference.
It's a little bit shorter than your standard forsythia too. It's more one of the dwarf varieties.
Yep.
And it also blooms all the way up and down the branch. Some of the older ones, you don't get as much flowers on it, but show off, literally the whole thing will be a blaze of flowers. It does. It's a show off.
It's a better forsythia. If you're planting it for your backyard, you want to show off. If you're planting your rental for your tenants, you want the other common one. Just doesn't matter as much. Actually, you want that for both. I brought this. This is rhododendrons. This is rhododendron season. A lot of folks don't believe we can grow that up here. We can, and grow it very, very well. And so we only have them in the spring, late winter, early spring. When they bloom, the whole thing is covered in these pom-pom shaped flowers to them. You'll see more flowers and foliage. Where people get mistaken, this needs shade does not like the sun. So you folks out in the pine trees, you've got some shade oaks out there. You want a pocket of glorious color showing up. That's where you place these. North side of the house, in that planter, in containers. This is going to grow great. This is PJM. It's a dwarf variety of rhododendron. Usually rhodies get as big as I am. They get this big. You'll see them, Hazley Homestead, some of the pine trees areas, you'll see big ones. Right out there where the deer and the javelina are roaming. They don't bother them. This one only gets this big. So it's much smaller. It's easier to maintain. So and it's got a purple flower. You'll see a bunch of them down there in every color you can think of. Now's the time to plant them. Now's the time to grab yours, because when they're gone, there won't be more. Same with this I brought. Where did it go? I had a peony here. I brought this only because so many people are asking me, oh no, my peonies are growing, they're going up, and it's frosting. Do I need to worry about them? I just brought it as a lesson for you. Mine look just like this. The eyes are starting to come up or breaking. They're growing actively right now. They're starting to, this will turn into this bush like this big and covered in flowers it's an English peony, about like this. Fragrance like you've never believed. So a lot of folks are doing, should I be worried about this new growth? No, it loves spring. It's perfectly fine. I would not cover it. If it frosts, I would not cover it. If it snows, I would not cover it. I would not cover it, says Sam I am. I would not cover this peony. Just let it go. So this one is, again, now is the time. I've got a lot of selection right now. I've got an article coming out in 3 weeks on how to grow peonies, and they will all be gone after or a couple weeks afterwards. So now's the time to grab the colors that you want. I'll have others that come in, but you've got such wide selection right now, so different colors. This one's kind of a peachy pink, but there's reds and whites and yellows. There's all kinds of colors. This is kind of like roses. You've got a lot of different choices. The plant is the same. The flower can change. That's the difference. I also have down there Ito peonies. We have grafted a tree peony we've drafted a English peony onto a tree peony. So now you get a bush peony that's on steroids. It's literally this big, and the flowers are this big. And they're more exotic colors, and they're more fragrant. I think they're more fragrant because the flower is just bigger. So it's spectacular. For me, I grow Ito because I've grown so many of these. I'm tired of these. What's something different? Ito, let's go exotic. But plant them now. Now's the time. With these, the insider tip, they're super hardy, drought hardy. Make sure the soil drains on these. Peonies have a real fleshy kind of root to it. If they sit there in heavy clay soil, they'll rot on you. Personal experience, I've killed a couple myself. I don't hold that against myself, although I still kick that plant. But once I had the drainage better, it thrived just a great. I grow now some in pots because drainage, a big pot, it just drains automatically. You don't have to worry about the drainage so much. Or raised beds, good place to grow those. So peonies do really, really well. Full sun, I would say at least 6 hours of sun. And I found javelina and deer, leave them alone. They don't bother them. So it's a good javelina plant.
They're really tough. Once they're established, it is tough to
Yeah.
kill a peony.
And then how are we doing on time? I keep thinking like we're going over. So you all are so patient, like you're eating this up or something, or you're just too nice to get up and leave. This is snapdragons. Snapdragons are every yard should have at least one snapdragon. They come in every color under the rainbow. We sell them as annuals, so they grow pretty fast, and they reseed. So they come up. You'll never have just one. You're going to have more. And so you never know what color you're going to get. So the seed will genetically change. Now you'll have red. There'll be pink. There'll be something else coming up. But again, it looks delicious. Javelina, rabbits, deer, don't eat this. It's got a heavy sap, got a white sap to it, so it doesn't kind of keeps them off of it. I think it makes them taste bad. So a lot of plants have natural defenses that they use to keep animals off of them. This one's developed a nasty taste that the javelina aren't going to like. But snapdragons. A little secret too, this flower stalk will keep blooming, keep blooming, keep blooming. Usually by June 1st, It's looking kind of tall and ratty looking. I'll cut off those spent flowers back to the green foliage, fertilize it, and by early fall, it's right back into bloom, just like that. You get 2 very long bloom cycles, but it likes to bloom when it's cool. Does not like the heat so much. Okay, snaps. And then I think, let me go over this tree here because it's kind of a live oak. We don't have this one very often. I thought I'd talk about it. So you're seeing a big, gigantic oak tree in the parking lot. That's this tree. Live oak is an evergreen oak tree. So it's kind of related to our emery oak. There's a big native looking kind of scrub oak looking thing. This one I find is a little more handsome, a little more kind of even, lollipop looking, more shade tree looking shape, but it's thick, it's full, it's evergreen. I don't know, drought hardy.
Super tough.
Super tough. We never care for that one in the parking lot. It's right there in the asphalt. I think we run into it every once in a while with a forklift. That's about all we do to it. And it's still
forklift proof.
It's forklift proof. So I've got I found, and I got the guy that grew that coming tomorrow. So he's out of Albuquerque. He's growing really nice live oaks like you've never seen. So that's kind of unusual to see a nice full one like that. Usually they're like twigs, they're whips. They look thin and wispy, and it's hard to get them full. He grows a nice full. And that means he's taken a couple extra years and pruning it, shaping it, making sure it gets full. With that, I think we could just end it. I think we can keep going on and on and on, but my voice is going.
I go get more plants.
Let me give one quick lesson. A couple things. Yep. You know what? We probably should, just so because it's part of the spring open house. You mind passing those around? So I've got all the vendors donating some plants. So we're taking names and phone numbers, probably emails, because we'll try to get a hold of you wherever we can. We're gonna take a drawing next week and go, they're giving me a whole bunch of plants. Put your name in the bin. The odds are very high that you could win something. And so put it in there. We'll put it in a bowl, fish bowl, and you're entered to win. So if you put your name on the sign-up sheet, that's just for the information. 3 handouts, top 10, food, water. This one's just for free prizes. Kind of take one and put it in. I encourage it. It's very likely you'll get something. 3 things. 1, in my own yard, I have put down weed and grass stopper in my yards. This is going to be a weed season like you have never seen because the moisture. This kills the seed as it germinates. So as that taproot forms, doesn't let it get started. So it keeps the weed from even coming up. But it's mild enough, you can put it underneath around your rose bushes. I guess we need to pass around a pen too. Here, Sharpie, here's a pen. Here, you can do it in blood if you want. I've got a knife. You can do Sharpie, it's all the above.
With the blood, you get 2 entries.
I tell you what, those folks online, Ken, if they actually type their email address in, we could manually write one in just for them, for those folks if they'd like. So anyway, I'm putting this down. I'm fertilizing everything in the yard right now. And I'm putting this down, especially where I get weeds. I have weeds in my raised beds or on my roses. There's some places where weeds are terrible. Use this and it will cut the work down to virtually nothing. It really does work. And I think it's really effective on rock lawns. I know we've got fabric underneath the rocks, but the dust and stuff builds up there and you still get weeds coming up. This keeps that from happening. Secondly, my roses. I'm a rosarian. I love my roses. So I'm using the all-purpose food. I wish I brought a bag of that. We make our own food, use that on most things. But for my roses, I'm putting this on right now. This is rose food with systemic. Quick lesson. So it's going to fertilize roses, get them big and fragrant. But I always get thrip and aphids getting into my first rose buds. It's such a pain. It looks like the rose is forming. Someone took a Bic lighter and burned the end of my rose. That's what thrip looks like. It's a bug that comes in spring, gets inside the flower, eats it from the inside out. I'm giving my roses rose food with systemic to keep those first buds from getting bugs in them. It's a game changer. If you've got roses, just get a bag of this. It's going to make your roses prettier. Just I'm tired of fighting aphids and thrip early on. As I get into summer, I'll change to the regular all-purpose food in the back. Oh, good. So can you plant after you put weed and grasshopper down? Yes. How quickly can you plant after you put weed and grasshopper down? Immediately. So what this does, it forms a barrier. And so it keeps the seed from getting down. It doesn't sterilize the soil at all. It just affects the seed so it can't get into that top layer. So that's the difference. And then lastly, you should be treating immediately your pine trees, especially natives, ponderosas. The aphids are already in the ponderosa pines. Scale are going to, we haven't seen scale yet, but they are coming probably within a couple of weeks. And so scale, you'll see this white cottony mass down towards the base, up in the trunks in the main crotches. That's the eggs. That's the scale laying eggs. And they come out and they attach themselves to the new needles that grow out. They literally suck the life out of the plant. You can treat that. You do not need to be an arborist. You can do this yourself. Tree and shrub drench is what you use. You mix this up in a 5-gallon bucket or a watering can, and then you pour it right there at the base of the trunk. Right there where the trunk meets the soil, that's where you put it. The plant will absorb this underneath the bark, where the bark beetle, the Ips beetle, flathead borer, all those things that eat pine trees, it actually poisons that so they can't, it shoos them out of there. It's like a vaccine, antibiotic for pine trees. But pines are a natural food source for a lot of our insects. So if you've got a majestic evergreen that you bought, you actually built your house around these evergreens. Some of you did that. I would treat those because if you lose them, they cannot be replaced. They're hundreds of years old. So yes, blister beetles are bad. They should die. What do you do about them? So blister beetles, they're more of a summer thing. So we're 6 months away from blister beetles. About when the grasshoppers come out, that's when you see blister beetles. Swarms of black beetles, and they land on a mimosa or a butterfly bush and they strip it. No foliage left. So you need to kind of be ready for them. We got a product down there called Sayonara. It will obliterate them. Literally, it kills them. Sayonara says goodbye to basically grasshoppers, blister beetles, that kind of stuff. Yeah, there's no way to really prevent them per se. This could come close, but some years are bad. Some years are not bad. So you just never, I hate putting poison stuff out there just in case. I'd rather treat as I see an issue. This one I do no matter what for my pine trees because there's entire neighborhoods, not a pinyon pine is left. They're all dead because the scale, they weren't treated. If you fertilize those natives right now and treat them with this. Now I brought this because, so a Chinese company bought out the manufacturers making our plant protector. We made our own for about the last 10 years. Well, a company bought out that company. They said, we don't want to do that for you anymore. Go away. I went, okay, that's so sad. And I was ticked and I cursed out loud a couple times. I kicked the truck. And then this is a co-op. Fertilome is a co-op. So we own part of the company. A bunch of us got together and we make our own stuff. This is one that we make. This is actually better than my plant protector. So if you use that in the past, and the difference is plant protector treated the structure of the plant that was there already. As new growth grew out, that was untreated wood. This actually travels with the pine as that new pine needle grows out. This actually travels with it. So it's actually better, but it's not Waters plant protector. It's Waters Fertilome's tree and shrub drench. So you use it the same way, but I brought that because it's confusing some folks. Okay, with that, we've got 1 hour and 14 minutes. You've been so patient. I will let you come up and look at plants. I will stay here, Dave Dickey, and I will stay as long as you want. We got another class tomorrow at 9:30. What that's going to be, I'm going to interview all these guys. There's probably 6 or 8 of them, and I'm going to see how'd you get into the industry. What's your newest? I'm not just going to say talk about your plants, but what do you love about Waters Garden Center? Why do you do what you do?
I'm
Pull the
glad I
curtain
got
back.
warned. Now I'm going to be ready tomorrow. I didn't know. I knew I was getting for
You
something.
guys know how to talk.
I didn't know what it was though.
So let's just try to make it something different, interesting, more agriculture. These guys are coming from the greenhouses and the farms. They've seen the backside of our industry. Well, tell us about that. And we'll try to ask some probing questions that kind of get you, and we'll talk plants too. So it'll be entertaining and fun. So appreciate you all coming. I'll let you clap. Thanks for tuning in online.
Thanks for
Appreciate
coming.
you guys. Love you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. 61st year. 61 years ago in 1962 this month, we opened. So it's our 61st spring open house. Yeah. Yes, what you got?
We used to grow these